So I have these wheels. Actually, I have 4 of them from decades ago. I built my kids a little wooden wagon, and the wagon rotted away, but I kept the wheels, and they're in pretty good shape. Got these 2 pieces of steel, and somehow or another, they are like exactly the right length. I think I'm onto something. I'm gonna drill axle holes. I think I could put a guide. I think I can bolt a wooden guide or screw a wooden guide to the stringer so this can go up and down. And then I just need to put some sort of spring so that when you step on the ladder, the feet will hit the ground. And when you get off the ladder, it'll rise up so you can scoot it out the way. Because really the only spot that's practical to climb up in the loft is in the center where the ceiling's highest. And I don't want the ladder there all the time. I want it to be able to roll to the side, and then at night somebody wants to go up there or roll it to the middle. I think I got something here. I'm gonna drill some holes. So this is like a summation of steps 9 through 41. It works, but it don't work. These little wheels are not up to the task. They're just too floppy. And I have too much play between the wooden slide and that steel frame. But it's gonna work. If I can get, I got a lathe now. If I could drill out these wheels and put a bearing in them or a bushing in them. Okay, I haven't given up yet, but as of right now, this isn't gonna cut the cheese. So I'm liking my wooden wheels, but they're too wobbly to be practical. So I bought these little bushings from McMaster Car, and I'm gonna drill out the hole to a 1/2 inch. That's what the OD is. And put 2 in each one, and see if we can't tighten up some of the slop. Unfortunately, I had a brain fart when I ordered them, so I'm gonna have to go to a smaller axle. But that'll be okay. I won't order anything. So a little progress on my wheels here. I'm sticking with the original metal bars that I found in the scrap deal because they seem to work good. Changed the bushings on the wheel, so I got rid of a lot of the slack, so that's better. But originally, when I did a clamp up, I had a block in here that I tried to make fit right, and this slid up and down on that block. Not much, but a little bit. But I don't have much bearing surface here. It was just barely touching, so it was kind of wonky. Now the length is right. So what I'm going to do is weld these little tubes. These are actually push rods. Put 1 here, 1 here, and 2 on the other side. And then instead of having a block in the middle as a guide, I'm going to have a block on each side that'll rub on this nice smooth push rod. I just need to figure out a way to get them parallel and not any further out than this, because this was really a close fit. And I can always grind this, but I won't be able to grind the push rods. So that's what I'm going to try to get to set up this morning and weld these little push rods on. Here's my setup in an attempt to get all this stuff square. I drew a square line on the table with the square and a Sharpie. So I got the truck parallel with the Sharpie line. And then I put my 2 magnetic deals to hold the round bar. So this is straight. So this is a 90-degree angle. And then by putting a framing square on top and measuring here and measuring here, got it pretty parallel with the table. So I'm gonna do both of these. I'm gonna weld this, and this. I'm gonna cut this off later. It just needs to be above the wheel. And then we're gonna flip it over and try to line it all up again and weld the other side. Okay, successful weld, or actually it's a braze on both sides. Now I'm gonna flip it over, and this is a little more complicated because the bolts stick up. Actually, I could probably take them off. But anyway, I'm gonna flip it over and get the other side. In spite of my best efforts, they didn't come out parallel because this structure was not strong enough. It just had a plate. It just had a plate here. It didn't have one at the bottom. So now I've got a little plate at the bottom. It's held up with the magnet. And I've got my 2 push rods parallel. Checking them with my micrometer. Kind of overkill, but that's all I have to measure this. And I got it clamped where it won't move. So I'm gonna put some weld here and here, and I'll check it, and if it's still good, I'll go ahead and braze it here, 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 and here. I found 2 suitable compression springs in my spring box. Everybody should have a spring box, right? So to hold the top of the spring, I cut a couple of pieces of angle off of this angle and cleaned them up and drilled holes for screws. And I found these 2 little things. They look like valve tappets, but I don't know where they came from. Anyway, they were in my junk drawer. But if I weld this on the bottom of this, if I can, it'll keep the spring from going away, from going side to side. So I don't know what this is made out of. It looks pretty hard. I should be able to weld that on top of there. Everything's hot right now. Let's give it a shot. My little upper spring support brackets look awesome. And everything, I trimmed the push rods to the right length, I hope. And everything's finished. I think it'll work. I'm gonna take the wheels off and give it a wire brushing and put some spray paint on this. And we'll go see if it works. Put a little spray paint on my steel yesterday, and now I'm gonna rip the guy. I'm gonna cut the guys. I'm gonna cut it 6 inches long, and I want 4 strips, like, I don't know, 7/8 or so. Clean them up. And I'm gonna put 1, 2, 3, 4, and it should work, hopefully. So this is how I'm laying out my little blocks. They're vertical from the floor, so they're perpendicular to the floor. And I'm on the 1-inch mark. And I'm on the 1-inch mark, and this corner is just touching the outside edge. So that's how I did the one up there. So now they'll match. I'm gonna screw this one down, set the steel, and the other one will match the steel. So the guide blocks are in place, and the spring goes right here, and it'll be fastened right here. But I don't know how much to preload it so that it can hold up the weight of the ladder, but not hold up the weight of a person. So I think I need to stand it up to do that, put it in place, play with it. Well, I got it first try. I put 2 little pieces of 1/4-inch plywood under the legs, and then I pushed the spring down with my hand kind of as hard as I could and clamped them both. And then now I have the plywood pulled out. So we're on the wheels, but when I step on it, we're on the ground, and then it bounces back up. So that's perfect. Just need to somehow or another mark the holes because the spring clamps are in the way. Put a couple of screws in them, and the bottom part's gonna be done. And the top part, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Most library stairs have the wheels on the outside of the stringers, which will make them less tippy when you roll them, just feel stronger. But this is a teeny house, and every square inch of floor is valuable. So I'll put my wheels on the inside, and they're gonna be fine for the intended use. And I don't know what I'm gonna do up top yet. I guess that'll be in next week's video. I have pounds and pounds of nautical charts. So when I did the bathroom, I put like a little frieze around the top with charts, and I thought it looked kind of cool. So I'm gonna do the whole loft ceiling with nautical charts. That's better than throwing them away. Ceiling in the loft, each side measures about 4'2". So in order to get rid of that little crack, I would have had to waste most of a sheet of plywood. So I just cut my plywood in half for the ceiling. I'm using the good 3/8 stuff, and I'm gonna have a 2-inch crack at the top, but that saves me 3 sheets of plywood at, I don't know, $70 a piece or whatever. And I laid them out in the shop. I painted both sides of them because it seemed like the wallpaper glue would stick better to paint than to the raw plywood. I laid them all out. You can see them in the background. I took my nautical charts and just started cutting them and laying them around and trying to get a balance of the colors and the shapes. And I tried to keep the charts where the kids had been visible, so one day they may look up and realize, hey, I've been there. When I bought my wooden boat, my Grand Travail, the previous owner had been to the Bahamas in the boat, and also up to Tennessee, Tom Bigby. And that was before GPS, so he just had 50 pounds of charts, and that's what most of these are. They're all different qualities. Some of them are pretty doggone waterproof, and some of them, just using the sponge to clean the glue off, starts to rub the paint or rub the ink. So all different qualities, different shades. So anyway, I laid out all the plywood and I cut out the charts. I cut the borders off so it wouldn't be a bunch of white lines, and I got them where I thought it looked good, and then one by one I moved them over here to the table where I could glue them. And I might as well have never laid them out before because the charts got mixed up, and I kind of just basically started over here and just started gluing. I've got two kinds of glue. One is a vinyl floor glue, which I think is probably pretty good. It was like $30 for a quart. And the other one is just wallpaper glue, which is like $10 a quart. So I tried to make an effort to use the vinyl floor glue along the edges where I think the paper is most likely to fail, and then just use the wallpaper glue in the middle. I wasn't 100% doing this, but I made an effort. These charts have been folded for decades, especially some of the bigger ones. They get folded a lot, and it's really hard to get all those folds out with the wallpaper glue, or probably if I was better at it. So I got some wrinkles. Wasn't part of the plan, but it happened, and they're almost unnoticeable unless you're really looking. I left the wallpaper hanging over the edges of the plywood. I was not able to cut it while it was wet because they would just tear, so I had to just let them dry and trim the edges the next day. Computer's going crazy here. And I got all the panels done, let them sit overnight, trim the edges, and then I could have had some pretty comical footage of me trying to hold them up with my head and shooting them onto the ceiling, and then looking at them and realizing I got them crooked, so pulling them off and shooting them again, and etc., etc. But I got them all up there, and you just witnessed one of them tear. It didn't happen very often, but I had plenty of these little blue ones, so I just, rather than trying to squeegee out the tear, I just threw it away and got another one and put it on there. Last one, we're done. So I'm cutting up some redwood siding for the trim in the loft. Super straight, super smooth. I wouldn't use this in a house because it's really soft. It would dent easily with vacuum cleaners and chairs and whatnot. For the loft, it's perfect. It weighs like nothing. Super light. I got them cut. I'm gonna sand them a little bit and put a coat of paint on them before I put them in. This is the baseboard, and then I'll have to put trim around the ceiling and up the gable. So I got a pretty good bit of cutting to do today. So this piece of 1/4-inch plywood, with any luck, will finish up the blue interior gable, because right now I don't have anything on that gable except foam. So I'm bringing it in and do a test fit. I'm pretty sure I got to cut these bottoms off a little bit. Other than that, it might fit. So I'm laying on my back in the loft, and I've got a bunch of trim done. So I'm going to take it all down and paint it. I got the plywood for this weird little gable. It's got two nails in it. Got those two rake trims, each have a nail in it. Got this long piece of trim that covers up the gap in the ceiling. It's got 1 or 2 nails in it. Get this rake trim done. And I got this, I don't know what you call it, this crown done. It's a little short on the ends, but I got a piece to cut. Finish that one and finish this one. I've got the baseboard cut. It's in the shop. So what's left? Not much, man. What's left is the bottom edge of that gable where the sheet metal is. And that's about it. So I'm gonna take all this stuff down, put at least 2 coats of paint on it, bring it back and shoot it up, and this loft will be finished. I still have window issues up here. This long window did indeed sag, so now it's really hard to close, so I got to deal with that. I got to find or make some kind of internal grill for the 12-volt exhaust fan and put in a humidistat or a timer there, and I'm not sure what's going to go there. Maybe just a blank plate. Yeah, so shaping up. Got to get some rope lights to put up here. I think that's how we're going to light this area. This is the ridge trim, and I painted it, and I thought instead of having this line of paint down the middle, I might as well glue chart steel to it and make it blend in a little better. So I've got some charts cut up into strips. I got glue on the board. I don't have my GoPro with me, but I'm gonna glue them on there and I'll show you after the fact. Okay, it was that was really pretty easy. Now let the paper dry and then I'll trim it. If I try to cut it now, it tends to tear. I guess I don't have a sharp enough razor blade. I'm not sure how the wallpaper guys do it. But we'll let this dry, which may take a long time because it's raining like it has done every day for the past 3.5 weeks. We'll trim it, and I got the second coat on all the trim, so I'm waiting on that anyway. So when the trim dries, I'll go put it up, and then hopefully this will be dry enough. I'll nail it into place. So once again, I'm laying on my back in the loft, and the ceiling is done. The trim is complete and nailed. Still needs caulking and touch-up paint, but super happy. I think it's very cool. It didn't take a tremendous amount of time. It cost squat. Okay, thanks for watching.